My older sister Jackie ran away 5 years ago with her deadbeat college dropout boyfriend Scott. She was 20 at the time. He was 21. They had been together for 5 years by then. They had been together since school, and my family had never approved of him because he was always getting into trouble. He was not particularly adept at academics and was frequently in trouble at school and in high school. He began smoking, drinking, and engaging in other prohibited activities. My parents always wanted her to break up with him, but she was determined to stay with him. And there wasn't much we could do because even when we argued about him, she would still go see him afterwards. It didn't matter to her that he wasn't the correct type of person, And then we lost my father to a major heart attack 5 years ago. I was just 19 years old at the time, and I recall feeling as if my entire life had been flipped upside down. Even then, Jackie refused to limit her time with Scott, even inviting him to the funeral. Knowing that we didn't get along with him at the burial, he was high as a kite, and that's where we drew the line. My mother and I informed her that we would no longer entertain this, and she would have to pick between us. So she ran away with him simply because we had stated that we would not support her or fund her lifestyle if she continued to be with him. It was tough for us to accept, but she was an adult and we couldn't stop her. So for the past 5 years, we have had no touch with her because she was the one who cut us off. My father passed away. I decided not to attend college because I wanted to work and support my family. My mother had always been a stay-at-home mom, and while she could work, I didn't want her to. She even offered to get a job as a secretary and then send me to college. But we had lived a great life thus far, and I didn't want to jeopardize it. Besides, my father had been working since he was 18 and had never even attended college, so if he can do it, so can I. Then I believed in myself. So I started small and took a low-wage job as an intern. But then I worked my way up, and now I'm fairly comfortable. I work in sales, and I'd like to think that I've been able to keep the quality of life that my father left for me. Of course, it helped that he had left a certain amount of money when he died, so we were able to live off of that as well. When I wasn't making much money, my mother was a huge assistance. She did everything in her power to ensure that I did not have to do any of the housework. When I got home from work, I felt quite resourceful. We've done our best to support ourselves over the last 5 years, and while we miss Jackie, there's not much we can do about it. Even though I have been the earner in the household for the past 5 years and have financially supported my mother, I have always known that she missed Jackie. Jackie had always been her favorite from the start, so she never treated me harshly. But it was clear that she had a soft spot for her older daughter, and when she ran away, there was a tremendous gap in my mother's heart, which I was aware of. She never spoke about her. She stopped acting as if she had another kid, and it was just the two of us. I had grown accustomed to it, but around 10 days ago, Jackie and a young kid who couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old arrived at our door after 5 years. My mother and I were both at home at the time, and when they arrived, I was astonished to see the two of them through the eye hole. However, my mother did not even wait to discuss it with me, opening the door as soon as I told her who it was. She didn't wait to see whether I wanted them into the house, which I could forgive, because I could tell she was both worried and excited, and at the end of the day she remained a mother. She hugged and welcomed her inside, along with the small child she said was her son. The two of them appeared worse for wear, and Jackie had literally shrunk to half her size. Their clothes were filthy and worn out, indicating that they had been suffering for a long time. They had also been stitched up in strange areas, and I could see that their hair was greasy, as if they hadn't showered in days. But the most worrying aspect of all was her body, which appeared to be in disarray due to her recent weight loss and bony appearance. Jackie had always been chubby, so seeing her like this was shocking. There were bags under her eyes, and it was so pathetic to look at them. I remember feeling nervous when I saw her for the first time in 5 years, and I can't tell you how bad it felt. I could tell she hadn't been living in the ideal conditions for the past few years, and it showed. So even though I was apprehensive about letting them in, I couldn't blame my mother for inviting them inside as soon as they arrived. My mother forgot about everything that had happened in the past and instantly began talking to them and converting them because she realized they had been through so much. Jackie then began telling us that after she and Scott ran away together, it was difficult for them because he was a college dropout, and she had also dropped out at the time, and there was no one to offer them work. It was still easier for me because I leveraged my family's connections to secure my first internship. but she didn't have anyone assisting her. After several weeks of difficulty and virtually living hand to mouth, they were able to secure extremely low-paying jobs for themselves. And that is how they have lived for the last few years. They'd changed occupations a few times but hadn't been able to advance as I had, so things were horrible for the two of them for quite some time. Jackie and Scott had been battling a lot lately, especially after their kid was born. Things had become worse, and he had ended up cheating and kicking her out of the house a few weeks ago, leaving her with nowhere to go. She had returned to the only place she knew she would be accepted, her home. She wanted us to forgive her for everything they had put us through and welcome us back into their life. I wanted to talk to my mother about it before making any decisions, but before I could do that, I needed a moment. She assured them that they no longer needed to be concerned because they had returned and she would look after them. That surprised me because I was the one who earned the money. Therefore, it was something I would almost certainly have to participate in. And I felt this was something we needed to talk about. But she'd already said it, and Jackie appeared so thrilled, so I didn't want to ruin it for them. It wasn't until they had gone to freshen up that I pulled my mother aside and asked her if she was serious about this, because we hadn't spoken with them in 5 years and didn't even know how they had gotten themselves into such a bad situation, because from what they had told us, they had had jobs in the past, so they should have been able to save some money and live decently. However, it appeared that they had been spending their money on something else entirely, and I had a sneaking suspicion that she was into drugs or something, because they couldn't have had jobs in the past and still looked like that if they were into shady and illegal things. I did not want to welcome them back into our lives so immediately and believed that we needed some time to think about it. But my mother was not on board. She told me that after 5 years, my sister had returned home, and it was now her family's obligation to ensure her well-being. My mother made it very obvious to me that she was not interested in whatever she had been up to previously, and her return was a strong indication that she wanted to get her life back on track, if she hadn't wanted it. She would not have came back in the first place, so we couldn't turn our backs on her when she asked for our assistance and be suspicious and odd. She had a point, so I decided to take a chance. Even if I didn't really trust the two of them, I just got to live with them for 2 days and was concerned about how things would end out in the future. But just 2 days after they returned, my mother sat me down while she was out looking for work and her son was resting, and she told me she wanted me to find my own house. Now that my sister had returned, I was dumbfounded since I couldn't comprehend her logic. But she told me that our house only had 2 rooms, and while I had my own room, she had been sleeping on the couch for the past 2 days, while Jackie and her kid had taken over the other room because the youngster didn't feel comfortable on the couch. It was causing her back difficulties, so she wanted me to go and start my own life with my own apartment. I suggested that Jackie stay in the living room if it was becoming a problem for her, but she said she didn't want that because she wanted them to feel accepted in the family, and she couldn't force them out of that room and make them stay in the living room without privacy or comfort. I found it very offensive that she had already offered to let them have it, because she was basically kicking me out after I had supported her for 5 years and had been the only person there for her. But now, just because her daughter had returned, she had completely forgotten about me and only cared about their comfort and privacy or whatever. I wouldn't describe myself as jealous at the time, but I was definitely upset and humiliated. I think I just felt betrayed by the way she was acting, and instead of attempting to understand where I was coming from, she chose to accuse me of being jealous of Jackie and stated that she knew I had always had a problem with her, but the way I was behaving was unacceptable. She acted as if I was jealous and insecure over Jackie's return, even saying that I had had her all to myself for so many years, and it should be enough for me. So I don't need to act like this right now. She said she only wanted me to make one small sacrifice for Jackie and her son's well-being because they had gone through so much and it was inconceivable, so I had to give them some leeway. It evolved into a really bad fight, so I decided to pack my belongings and leave that same day. It has been a few days since then, and I am currently living with a buddy. I couldn't find any flats on such short notice, but I don't think I can go back to living with my mother after what occurred 4 days ago. After I went, I decided not to speak with my mother because she had really irritated me, and I was really upset. So I silenced her and blocked Jackie. I didn't want anyone to have access to me, so I had no idea what happened after I left. And then I got a call from my mother 4 days ago, and she was in tears. So I became quite concerned about her, and she informed me that the police had been at our house, arrested Jackie, and had her in custody. And it appears that she was also under investigation. I was surprised to learn about it since I felt there was something fishy going on, but I did not anticipate her to be arrested so quickly. When my mother explained why she had been arrested, I was even more startled because the child she had brought with her was not even hers. He wasn't her son, but he was Scott's son, and she'd basically kidnapped him and fled to get back at him or whatever. It was utterly unhinged. When I learned about the whole situation from my mother, I knew it was serious, and she was clearly pleading for my assistance. My mother informed me that the child she had brought along was the same child that Scott had brought home when he chose to kick her out. Jackie was really concerned about his son's affair with his lover. So, after she was forced out, she planned to kidnap him. And the poor kid was just 3 years old. He hadn't been taught anything about such circumstances, so he just went along with Jackie, who had evidently convinced him that she was bringing him to Disneyland, and then began threatening him to keep his mouth shut around the house so she could make sure he never came home. The cops had been looking for her for a long time, but she was almost untraceable due to her lack of a phone or any other means of communication. They eventually found her, and I'm grateful. It was wild. And I informed my mother that she should talk to me before letting Jackie and the youngster to move in with us, because she would now be examined as well. Even though the cops would have no reason to suspect anything because we hadn't spoken in so long, it would still tarnish her reputation, if people learn about it. On the phone, she asked me to help her hire a lawyer and prove that she had no involvement in all of this. I told her I would do it, but she would have to stop communicating to Jackie because she had put our family in a tough situation, which I did not appreciate. But my mother thought that was an awkward demand because no matter what she had done, Jackie was still our family member, and she expected me to assist her as well, and things we should testify against. Scotland. A trial began in an attempt to save my sister, which is where we disagreed, and we had a really horrible phone argument because I didn't agree with that. I believe Jackie needs to be punished for what she did. I get that being cheated on feels horrible and that it probably makes others feel bad, but it's no excuse to practically kidnap a child and put your family in risk. That is out-of-control behavior, and I don't want to aid her while also being the bad guy. So I made it obvious to my mother, but she claimed I was just letting my jealousy and anxieties show, and that she hoped she had raised someone more compassionate than me. My mother began acting as if I were the villain in this situation, and now I'm genuinely thinking whether I am or not, because I feel awful and don't know what to do. I'm staying because I refuse to help my estranged sister avoid jail. So, 3 days have passed since I last wrote an update here. I'd want to thank everyone who took the time to react to my first post. That is very kind of you. Anyway, after reading the comments and thinking about it on my own, I decided to do my duty to my mother and refer her to a reputable lawyer I knew since I did not want her to suffer. But, at the same time, if she decides to assist Jackie and represent her as well, I will ask her to back off. My only duty is to my mother, not Jackie. She abandoned our family long ago, and I no longer feel compelled to excuse or support her. If my mother does, that is her own business. I do not want to interfere with that. However, I do not feel the same way, and I have made that plain. I can't believe my mother tried to gaslight me and make me believe that I was the bad guy for refusing to aid my sister, who is actually a kidnapper. That was very unjust of her. Anyway, I can't change the issue right now. I'm still living with a friend and looking for an apartment to distract myself from all of this. I know my mother will not go to jail. Everyone knows she isn't involved in any of this. For the past few years, we have not even spoken with Jackie, but I'm always worried about her. Even though we're not communicating right now, I'm worried about her because it's been just the two of us for so long. After my father, she was the only person who cared about me. So I have a relationship with her, which is quite important to me, but I do not know. The only thing I can take comfort in right now is that the lawyer I've contacted and connected her with is a solid woman with a lot of experience keeping people out of prison, so I'm banking on her. She has also agreed to assist me and cut her prices exclusively for me, because I am very close friends with her brother and we work together. Her brother has assured me that everything will be all right, and I am taking their word for it. Until then, I'm going to avoid speaking with my mother because she has showed no desire in speaking with me. Following my phone call with her the other day. Even after the lawyer contacted her and agreed to accept her assistance in representing my mother, she did not call me to express her gratitude for what I had done for her. So I'm not sure how I feel about all of this, but I hope she comes around. Update 2. Hi, so the trial against Jackie has begun and it will be very intense for my mother. I'm sure it won't be easy for her to witness her favorite daughter being persecuted. She hasn't tried to contact me since our phone talk the other day, despite the fact that she is working with the lawyer I recommended for her. As I mentioned in my previous update, I was expecting her to contact me and thank me, but nothing has happened. Anyway, as her daughter, I did what I had to do and it's no longer my business. She has made it apparent that she does not want me to be a part of her life. We weren't conversing until a few days ago, but she wasn't blocking me everywhere. However, I recently discovered that she had barred me on Facebook and even blacklisted my phone number after I attempted to call her to check the barring on social media. And then I learned my phone number was also restricted. I could have called her using my friend's phone number, but it didn't seem worth it, so I let it go. Besides, now that I know she doesn't want to speak to me or even tell me what's going on in her life, I got the message loud and clear. I've instructed the lawyer not to contact me with any developments in the trial. My only task was to bring her in touch, which I did. And now I don't need to know what's going on or trouble myself about it. However, the hunt for an apartment has gone well since I have been able to settle one. However, the rent is a little pricey. But now that I no longer have to support my mother, I think I'll be able to afford it. Initially, I was concerned about what might happen to my mother. Now that she doesn't have anyone to financially support her, I believed she must have considered it since she was so confident in kicking me out and cutting me out of her life. I'm just hoping she doesn't come back to me looking for financial support, because I'm not going to do that. After the level of disdain she has shown me, I'm just relieved that in a few days, I'll be able to get out of my friend's hair because I believe I've annoyed her enough. Even though she insists I can stay with her for as long as I need to, I just need some alone time to reflect on what's going on in my life right now, because so much has happened in the last few weeks that I have yet to digest. So I might take a few days off from work as well, simply to sit with my emotions for a while. I really need to update all three. Hi. Jackie's trial began 2 months ago, and she is currently on her own. It was rapidly revealed that my mother had nothing to do with this issue, and she was unaware that the child Jackie had brought with her was not her son. She and her lawyer were able to prove that she was not engaged in any of this, and after the lawyer's charges were cleared, she instructed her to express her gratitude to me. When I was informed about it, I was quite irritated since she might have contacted me to inform me of the situation. But even after 2 months, she refused to talk to me. I'm not sure what she's so upset about, because it's been shown that Jackie is the evil guy here, and I was correct in not wanting to aid her. I really want to confront her about this, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. I've been battling with this decision for the past few days ever since the lawyer contacted me and informed me that this is what my mother had to say. I've had conflicting emotions about what to do. My life is currently going smoothly. I have a decent job and am ready to be promoted at work. I have my own apartment and have been living alone for the past few months, which has been lovely. Lonely, yes, but really nice. I have even started seeing someone in the last few weeks, so everything is on track. But I miss my mother a lot. And I know most people in the comments section have stated she's toxic and I should cut her out of my life, but she's still my mom. And I suppose you're forgetting that once my father died, she was the only person I had. We had other family members, but the only one who could truly understand and share my anguish was her. And I truly miss her. Even though what happened recently was wrong, I still miss her, and the least I can do is gain some closure by having one last discussion with her that is not on the phone. So I've been thinking about reaching out to her and meeting her just once. Update 4. Hi. So, some of you really urged me to speak with my mother. If I truly missed her, I'd like to find some closure following my post last week. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided to contact her. When I tried to call her, I found she had cleared my number, and she answered the phone fast. I chatted with her on the phone and scheduled our appointment for the next day. I went to my house to meet her. She greeted me with a hug and began crying as soon as she saw me, saying that she was deeply sorry for how she had treated me. But she had seen Jackie after such a long time that things had stopped making sense in her head, and she had been acting like a complete fool. I didn't even need to say anything. In my defense, she admitted that everything I had said was correct, and she was the one who had gone wrong. She actually begged me to forgive her, saying that she didn't have anyone other than me, and that her fondness for Jackie had caused her to turn a blind eye to how crazy she had been. However, throughout the trial, she recognized that Jackie's actions had not only harmed herself, but also the family. And I was correct in not wanting to assist her or make any contact with her. Just because she is connected to me by blood does not imply that she respects that link, and we do not have to respect it at the expense of our sanity. She told me that she had conceived Jackie after many difficulties, which is why she always thought of her as unique. But she now realizes she was wrong and should not have treated me that way. I wasn't surprised that she admitted to having a soft spot. Everyone knew this all along, but when she told me she was going to try to work on it and wanted our relationship to improve, I was overjoyed. And I know she's not doing it for the money because her brother has been supporting her for the past 10 months since I left, and she even tried to acquire a job working from home in her brother's firm, which she is currently doing. So I know this is all true, and she truly wants to make things right between us. However, we've decided to live separately for a while because being alone has given me a new viewpoint, and I can't always stay in my old home with my mother. I need to get out of there and lead my own life. So, we've agreed to stay in touch and wing it for the next 3 months, seeing how things go. But, yeah, I am going to try to repair my relationship with my mother, and I am hoping that everything works out for us. Stay tuned for more stories from the past. Relationships.